great couple of days with you, mate.
Welcome back, Manny.
Always good to be here. Look, you've always been about phenotype backed with amazing figures and data, and it continues ever more so this year, doesn't it?
Yeah, evidence-based breeding. We always bred for a good-looking animal, and we still are. It's critically important to what we're doing, but we need some evidence, some figures to back that up, and that's where the science plays a critical role. This year, for the first time, we've got a few new traits. Early breech wrinkle is one we haven't offered before, as well as number of lambs weaned. So early breech wrinkle is now a figure people can use to select away from animals that need to be mules. We haven't mules for many years. 2006 we stopped, and I'd love to see the industry move away from that practice altogether. So now we've got the data to help people select on paper for the animals that will help them do that, and then match the phenotype and the other traits that are important to them to put the whole package together.
Chad, yesterday we spent a couple of hours in amongst some of the ewes. Great to see. You know, one of the paddocks had 180% lambing. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, well, it wasn't just one paddock, Benny. Right across the flock ewes this year, the twin bearers look like they're going to average 180% of lambs marked and hopefully lambs weaned. And it's really important to us that the lambs we conceive are taken right through until sale. If a ewe conceives a lamb and loses that lamb sometime after birth, it's not just the lamb she's lost, it's 10% of her wool producing that lamb. So we need to convert those lambs. So to see twin bearers up around that 180% of lambs marked is a huge step genetically and for the business.
One of the things I really loved about a lot of those ewes is they were so robust. You know, their rib cage and length and beautiful udders on them.
Yeah, it's the condition score amongst that other stuff you mentioned that really excites me. Ewes holding onto that condition with a lamb at foot on dry grass, big bags of milk. It's a package that really is coming together well, selecting for condition score in amongst all the other traits that are important to us. It's really being reflected this year, again in a tough year, low quality grass, a lot of lambs at foot and ewes in good nick. It's pretty exciting to see it coming through.
Chad, wool is obviously a major part of your enterprise. How are you using data and figures to get where you want to go?
Wool's a very important part of our enterprise and of the whole merino industry. And so through data we can select for fleece weight. It's quite simple. We can select for fleece weight and for micron, and we can combine those traits on a sheep that doesn't need to be mules by combining the early breech wrinkle trait, using NLW to combine high reproduction with wool traits. And there's some antagonisms in there, but if we use the data to select the animals that can combine those traits at good levels, then we can just make rapid genetic progress, which is the whole aim of the game.
So in terms of fleece weight, where do you stand on it?
The average of the auction team this year will be around plus 14 for yearling clean fleece weight, when the industry's around plus 12, so we're above the industry average on that trait. The industry sets a very high average for fleece weight. There's so many studs selecting for that trait. What we're doing differently is selecting for a whole range of other traits, many of which fleece weight is antagonistic with. So we need to make sure we're not breeding a strength into the stud in one area only to breed a weakness in somewhere else. We need to make sure that weakness is filled and we're strong in all areas. So through selection and adding numbers to those traits, we can combine all those traits to good levels.
Chad, I often hear you talk about the engine room of the merino, and you know, I love it. So talk to us a little bit about yearling fat and yearling eye muscle area depth.
I just see fat and muscle as the two traits that form the motor in the merino, and fleece weight is a trait that can breed fat and muscle out of the sheep if we don't select for them, but again through selection we can combine fleece weight with fat and muscle and put a good motor in these sheep so they can handle themselves through seasons like we're having at the moment, maintaining high levels of reproduction with high fleece weight and high profitability. And it's not just when conditions are good. Anyone can do it when it's easy, but it's the sheep that have the big motor that perform when the pressure's really on, and they're the sort of sheep we want to breed.
Chad, the rams look fantastic, both the spring and the autumn rams. You know, from a visual point of view, irrespective of the figures, they're just an absolute credit to you. But you know, you put a lot of emphasis on yearling weight and post-weaning weight, and you can see that out in the paddock, can't you?
I think so. The growth traits, we want early growth in the sheep, looking for that early growth curve, not slow maturing sheep that grow into bullocks later on. So there's growth at different stages that we measure, at weaning, post-weaning and yearling, and also keeping an eye on not going too far with adult body weight. And so I think the sheep are reflecting that. They've been managed very well. We've got Andrew Glover in place now managing a lot of the nutrition, and I think it's really showing in the animals this year the way they're presenting, particularly given the year being as tough as it's been.
Chad, one of the great things about Mumblebone is your influence all over Australia and of course internationally. You've got your genetics working in model environments, and I think one of the best aspects of it is that you're really willing to go into these sire evaluation trials, and you've done really well, haven't you?
There's been some some really good results. It's one thing to see rams going into flocks all around the country and following the performance of those rams and flocks around. But the sire evaluation, that's a bit of a no holes barred approach, I guess, to measuring the performance of some sires. And we've had sires that have not gone so well. We've had sires that have done particularly well. But it is encouraging to see that there are a lot of results coming through from 3 sites particularly, spread across the country, with some very pleasing results in terms of fleece weight and staple length and reproduction, carcass traits, that the whole package being measured and stacking up very well.
There was some pretty wide and varied results in the Balmoral trial this year in regards to fertility.
An enormous spread in conception rate, from 43% up to 93%, which is a huge range in sire performance. So if that is then exacerbated by the conversion of those fetuses, that gap could widen up even more. But again, through sire evaluation, we can start to see the sires that are performing under different conditions, and sometimes sires perform when conditions are very easy. That same sire often doesn't perform when conditions are very hard, and vice versa. It's great to see them in different locations under different conditions, combining different traits to give us a lot of information.
Well, Chad, it's been an awesome couple of days, and best of luck for the sale.
Thanks, Benny.